This is the story of a child sold as a slave who helps foreigners see the power of God. We're not talking about Joseph. Our story is in 2 Kings chapter 5. And there's this little girl who is abducted in a raid in Israel. She probably had a family. She had brothers, sisters, other people, but she was sold as a slave. We don't know how old she was. The text says little, which means not grown. I tend to think of her as being 10 or 12 years old, which is a pretty young age to have your life totally upended. She ended up in the Syrian general's household. Her mistress was a general's wife, and this was a time period that Elisha was doing a ton of miracles. Remember, we talked about he raised the Shunammite's son. He made water pure for some prophets that had spoiled. He raised an axe head out of the water. Everyone knew about Jehovah's power because of the things that Elisha had been doing. He was probably the closest thing to a rock star any of the prophets ever got. So this little girl mentions to Naaman's wife that Israel's God could heal her husband of leprosy. And this little girl had faith that Jehovah could do it, even though we have no record that anyone had ever been healed of leprosy before. So Naaman hears that Israel's God can heal leprosy. He tells the Syrian king, who sends Naaman to the king of Israel to have him healed. This becomes a political hot potato, and the king of Israel thinks that the king of Syria is trying to find a reason to start a fight. And it could have been a war, except Elisha sends a message to the king to send Naaman to him. And most know that Elisha sends Naaman to the Jordan River to dip 7 times, which eventually Naaman did it reluctantly, but he was healed by God. But let's talk about this little girl. What kind of person wants to help after being shanghaied and sold as a slave? Would you feel sorry for yourself? Maybe throw a pity party? Would you blame God? Would you run away? Look for revenge? This girl didn't seem to be bitter about any of this. She didn't seem to hold a grudge against anybody or hold someone responsible for her new circumstances. What would have happened if Naaman hadn't been healed? Would she have been punished? I doubt if she realized the political implications, but if Naaman had come back to the king of Syria with his leprosy, there might have been some major issues or a war, and she might have received some of the fallout. She really just wanted to help. She's compassionate. After all that she's been through, I think that's pretty amazing. After being kidnapped and sold into slavery, what she wants to do is tell people about how awesome Jehovah is. She tells others about God and His power and how that can help you. And I think that's a great story for me, is telling others about God's power no matter what our circumstances is a wonderful example that this girl provides. Thank you.